Thank you for joining us here at Tax, the platform where we try to demystify the sometimes confusing world of international tax. And today we have the honor and the privilege of two very distinguished guests to help us understand international tax for Brazil. And that's Pilar and Rodrigo. Would you guys like to introduce yourself? Ladies first, Pilar.
Oh, hello, everyone. Really nice to be here. I'm a Brazilian tax advisor. I'm also an academic, and I've been working at HHP, that's a Dutch law firm with international cases. I think that's the main thing.
Fantastic. And Rodrigo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rodrigo. Thanks, Darren, for the invitation to be here. I'm a tax lawyer in Brazil. I'm a tax partner at Mota Fernandes. We are a law firm based in Rio, São Paulo, and Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. I'm also a tax professor here in Brazil. I teach tax law at the court here in Rio de Janeiro. We have a law school at the court, so I teach tax law for those who want to be judges here in Brazil. So basically, I have this experience acting as a tax lawyer and also as a tax professor here.
Fantastic. In the U.S., the use of trust structures is quite common, not necessarily for any tax optimization, but for asset protection and for estate planning. And in certain European jurisdictions, we have private family foundations that serve a similar purpose. Are any of those structures allowed or recognized in Brazil? And if not, what structures would a high net worth family typically use for asset protection and estate planning?
Basically, our legislation does not recognize the figure of a trust. I can't say that it's similar, but we have a structure that when we go to law school, we study that in law school, but I never saw that. But it's different from the trust. Here in Brazil, it's called fideicomisso, but it's something I never, in my whole professional life, I never saw someone doing that. But the trust, as it is in the United States and in other common law countries, we don't have this structure in Brazil. But during the past 6 or 7 years, or 10 years, let's say 10 years, trusts are a type of structure the Brazilian tax authorities are paying attention to. Even though we don't have this structure in our legislation, we have a lot of discussions about information about trusts, transparency, about taxation, even taxation of the trust. We had at the beginning of this year an initiative from the government to change the tax law in Brazil in order to reach trusts controls related to Brazilians to Brazilian residents abroad in order to tax them. Now we have a project in the Congress about that under discussion. So it's something that it's not directly regulated by our contract or civil law in Brazil, but the tax law started to pay attention to those structures in order to tax them. So we don't have, as a tax resident in Brazil, I don't have the way to form a trust in Brazil. Family foundation. We have foundations in Brazil, but it's not quite similar what the European countries called family foundation. Basically, in Brazil, you have other ways to organize your assets, to try to protect your assets, sometimes using equity funds, private funds, holdings in order to organize basically your real estate assets. But I don't see a lot of Brazilian people start to pay attention to trusts as international. Here in Brazil, there's a lot of people to form Florida trusts, for example, which from my colleagues in the United States usually say that Florida trust is not quite a trust, but it's something like of. But here we don't have this structure, but we are facing a very important, relevant, and strong discussion about how to tax those trusts. And this is related to other aspects about CFC rules in Brazil. CFC rules apply to individuals and everything. So speaking very fast, we don't have this structure, but we are paying attention to these structures in order to tax those structures.
Okay, Pilar?
I do agree, but we also know that in Brazil you have lots of inequality. So you have lots of poor people, but also lots of really rich people, really, really rich people. So many people also use these structures outside Brazil. And that's why Rodrigo was saying that Brazilian tax authorities are paying more attention on these kind of structures, because we are going to try to get them. We are no tax authorities are going to try to get them. I think that's the most relevant. We have some types of tax planning. Sometimes people create legal entities because depending on how much income you have you are less taxed as a legal entity than as an individual. That's one of the most basic tax plannings you have. For our legal entities, you have sometimes some tax benefits, tax reliefs that individuals cannot have. So people also use some level of tax planning based in legal entities, not really trusts or family foundations, but that's the Brazilian way of tax planning.
Just to add one thing, Darren, just so if I can just add one thing. When I say that as a Brazilian tax resident, I cannot have a trust. I cannot have a trust in Brazil because this structure is not regulated by the law. But I'm not forbidden to have a trust in the U.S. But I can do it. The main discussion is the tax authorities want to know that I have this structure outside of Brazil. The tax authorities want to know if this structure has profits, has dividends, has everything, and then tax me in Brazil because of those assets and those this revenue outside. So basically, I cannot do that inside Brazil based on on Brazilian law, Brazilian legislation. But there's not a prohibition about having this structure for a Brazilian tax resident outside of Brazil.
Okay, so there's no recognition of trust within the law. And so I guess from a tax point of view, the foreign trust will be transparent and the tax office will just want to know, okay, what's in it, what was generated. You need to report and pay tax on it.
Yes, basically what the Brazilian, it's what we are discussing right now here in our Congress. But basically they want to see the trust as some sort of pass-through entity.
Exactly.
It's totally transparent. Yeah. Totally transparent. That's the discussion right now.
And you have foundations, but they're public interest or not for profit for charity, but not for preserving family wealth.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.